Hello and welcome to today's live stream. As you can see, I'll be doing a coast painting. We have some buildings and we also have some boats there. It's a watercolor painting, and the image that I've got this from was kindly given to me to use as a reference by Gosh Wiener. She took these photos many years ago, and she put them up recently on the internet, and I asked if I could have this one to paint, so she kindly said yes. So we're going to make a start with it, and I've put it on a bit of a tilt today because I want a tilting down kind of thing. And just as a reference, the light is coming from the right hand side here, so the left side of the buildings are going to be darker than the right side. So we'll now have a look at. Hi Gail, nice to see you. We'll now have a look at the paper. The paper is by St Cuthbert's Mill. It's what they call Milford paper. Now that's a little bit like Buckingford, but Buckingford is a cellulose paper. This is 100% cotton, a bit like their Saunders Waterford, but it's a different configuration of cotton paper. It's 100% cotton. Oh, well, you can stay as long as you have to, Gail. You can always watch it back. Obviously, this is a live video, so we'll be talking occasionally with everyone who comes in. I'm just going to get set up a little bit more. I need to be able to see my reference image. So I'm going to put that down there a little bit. Hi, Madonna. It's nice to see you. I'm just getting myself all set up and ready. There is my reference image. I don't think I'm that far off ready. So I think we're virtually ready to start, unless there are any questions. Okay then, Gail, we'll see you another time. So, right, let's just have a quick look at one or two other things. I'm using my White Night colours today, a reasonable set of colours. I hope you're using all of these. It's fairly muted colour, but let's have a look at some of the brushes I potentially might be using. We've got this Hake brush here, and then we've got a couple of these kind of brush with the quill and a point on the end of these ones, pointed quills. On the subject of points, this is a very sharply pointed, when it's wet it is. Let me just dip it a second. That's a calligraphy pointed brush, and one of my big mop pointed brushes, and that is also a quill. I use that quite a bit. But to make a start then, the first thing I'm going to do is wet the top of the paper. Make sure I've got plenty of water going on. And I'm just going to let that come so far down into the buildings. Just make sure that that's fully wet. dear. Don't know where that's come from. Right, now let's get a blue. Nice blue. It is apparently, according to Goswina, this is on the Yorkshire coast, near where I live. So she went on holiday there and took some snaps a lot of years ago. And here I am now painting it. So let's go across the sky. Bring that down. I'm just going to make sure that I don't hit the bottom parts of those buildings, but I definitely want to. There we go. Another bout of it across there. And the sky itself, in that sense, it's pretty muted, really. I might just put a little bit of colour value in there. Can get it to. That's a bit too much. See if I can spread that out. It's better. Have more there. Right, I'm going to see if I can put some clouds in it. I want to get rid of that first. That leading edge. Do me motorbikes today, they do make some noise. Right. So got that like that. Now let's see if we can. And some fluffy clouds. Now this side here is actually a lot lighter because that's where the light's coming from. So I'm going to make that a lot. Get some cloud up there. And that's all I'm going to do with the cloud. With the sky, that's about as much as I'm interested in doing. Now I'm just going to close the window because I bet you can hear every single vehicle on the face of the planet going by. Won't be a second. Hopefully that's going to make it so you're not hearing all motorbikes and vehicles going by, because you wouldn't think that we're in a period of lockdown. So yeah, it would, but it's apparently not. I don't know exactly where it is. I thought it were Whitby personally, but Goswina tells me that it's Scarborough. I don't know where in Scarborough, but then again, I mean, what I know of Scarborough now, all that might have been knocked down between now and the time that they went on holiday, because the actual photos are quite old. You can tell by the saturation of colour. And I think what we'll do now, while we're in that blue frame of mind, we'll get some water, blue in, and I'm just going like that, just in certain areas. and different levels of volume like that. That area there is going to be quite strong. And I'm going to use what's left of the blue that I've got, and I'm going to add a burnt sienna or something like that to it, so it turns into like a mucky brown. And all the areas that I feel I need to do, I'm going to add it like that. And it's all the areas that are not being hit by light as much. I'm not going to use that because it's a bit clumsy. So a bit of that blue and some more burnt sienna to make that mucky brown. And I'm trying to do this very translucently. Now, although there's like a promenade there that goes over the other area, and what that's doing is creating a very dark area under there that I'm just going to kind of give you the idea that there's something there. And it stops round about there because there's like a stairwell that brings you down onto the main jetty or whatever you want to call it. And again, I'm going to this is a bit here that's part of the arbour wall. We'll call it an arbour. And that goes like that. And we're just basically blocking in at the moment. I want that to blend in a bit, and that there also to blend in. When you're drawing this kind of building arrangement, it's best not to try and get over detailed with what you're painting or what you're drawing. It's only going to cause confusion. Just try and get the block thing in and don't overdo the drawing. And it helps that because it helps you be loose when you come to the point where you're going to actually paint things. Because the tendency is when you're painting something like this, is when you see everything, you've got to add every tiny little detail when it's there, and really you're going to really damage your painting if you try doing that to a great extent. And I really like this cotton paper. It's a nice compromise between what you would get from a cellulose paper like Buckingford and the qualities of paper that you get from is Capro here? Hello, he is. Hi, Goswina. Goswina's here as well. She's the person who provided the picture for me to actually do. And if you want to know anything about it, I'm sure Goswina will tell you what you need to know. So we've got some stairs that come down to the water line. I'm just going to... The trick is with these things is not to over egg it and Right, I'm working around this area now, dark, because there's a person who's in the light there. Now, what I will do is I'll get a what, cause light's coming from this side. I'm going to get lighter colours. Although I'm not going to do it white, I'm going to make sure that it's a warmer colour. And it's like a... Most of these are whitewashed sandstone. So I'm going to go in there like that. Maybe too much, that little bit. And I'm going to then let that blend in like that. And then you know that that and that are both the same thing. And we've got another one there. And you'll find a lot of these white buildings at coastal places, and then sporadically you'll get one that's slightly coloured. But want to try and make it interesting, and I don't want to just like leave it white. I'm gonna make a bit of that go into there as well. And we'll keep doing this. Obviously this is the first layer, so hope I'm not missing anybody's points. If you've got some question or anything that you might have, just keep at me, because I'll find you eventually. Now, in buildings like that, I'm gonna hint at the idea that there's still bits of the building being reflected, and again maybe there. Well, before I forget to do it, because it's always one of them things that you end up forgetting to do. I'll bring that down there a little bit. And just break it up a bit. So, strangely there, I'm going to make that. Let's have a look now. Parts of buildings like that. And the odd bits here and there. Can see things like that. Flecks of colour. There's a building here that has a red roof. Now that's the only one I can see that has a red roof. I'm just going to indicate that slightly. Now, on the subject of red, this boat has a red. This picture has a red boat in it. And all I'm going to do is just block it in. We can fiddle about with this later. And just to give it a bit of realism, we'll drag some of it down like that. The boat off to this side here has a very strong blue line, but it's white, the boat. Now, you say, oh, well, just leave it white. Well, that you could do that, but just want to give it a bit of a better indicator. The side, I'm going to create a grey colour. One side of it, I'm just going to make sure that you know that that's like that. Might be a bit strong, that. And then follow on with certain details. Like that. Then nip the strong colour out of it. That for now is done. I wouldn't work any more on that. And we want to do a similar kind of thing with this boat. It's got a white top here, but we need to make one side of it darker. That's a bit too strong. It's really weird how that there is darker. It must be the way the boat's leaning, because everything to this side normally should be very light. So let's just to keep things in order. I'm going to make that dark and that like that. And see if I can like that. That's better. Make sure that bit's dark. And on this here, I'm gonna just a slight wetting of it like that. You might not see all these intricate details, but in the real painting itself, it will come out quite quite obviously. You know, slightly colour things. I'm just going to block stuff in now because I want to be taking too much longer on getting things set up. Getting getting bits of interesting. Another right. So the next really important bit is the roofs, and they're like grey, bluey slate. We just put a bit of burnt sienna in there. Tiny bit more blue. I think we're ready. No, I've over-egged it. Here we go. Right. I'm gonna make sure that's quite wet, and then, and I'm only following it very roughly like that, and I'm trying to find connecting points. And you see how, because that's still wet, it's like bleeding into that area. Well, that's good. That it kind of helps interconnect the painting. And while I'm in that frame of mind, let's see if we can like get some of the darker details in. I'm going to work around that area there because I seem to see some people there. Might not be, but hi Paranini. Hi Davey M. Nice to see you here. So again, we're looking for certain areas. Let's see if I can create interest here. It's all a little bit, when you get round here, it's a tiny bit abstract. And fuzzed out an awful lot. There's no absolutely defined environment there. And it's a good thing to do that anyway in your backgrounds of paintings or areas where there's not a huge amount of interest. And there's a big area here of roof. We're going to make sure that's well covered. There's some more here. And some more there. And I'm not being critical about exact positioning. I want it to have a slightly loose feel anyway. So I'm going to warm the colour up a little bit and have it in certain areas. Maybe a bit too much that. Need some clean water in there. Just get random expressions of value in there in various places. And some of these lines that I've created, soften them off because we're trying to create detail, but we don't want things to be popping out too much, because there isn't actually a real dominant thing in the painting. Oh, welcome back, Gail. Nice to see you. You're done. I shall be on this for quite a while, guys, so it's not going to be a quick and easy one. So, but I wanted to have a go at it because it's such a nice challenge, and I'm very grateful to Goswina for allowing me to have a go with this. Put some dark in there. Keep emphasising these areas that are dark. And we'll eventually build up an understanding within the painting and narrative that will help us to understand the overall painting. But you just have to be patient with things like this. They do take a while to start forming, but when they do, and they're done right, they look really nice. So we've got a set of steps that come down there, and we're re-emphasising that. Now, this is where I have to start thinking, do I stop and start the drying process with a dryer? Just taking out some of these hard lines. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up me dryer, and we can then give that a bit more of a straight line. Crisp it up a little bit. There we go. I think that's become a little bit too coloured. So let me get some tissue. There we go. Right, I'm going to so that really is the painting blocked in. In saying that, I've got a little boat that I've neglected, and again, that's got like a little stripe. It's got a bit there, and it's also got like a line that goes there, and just have a look. Oh, it's got a line as well that goes across there. I'll put a broken up line there that represents that, and a very broken up line there. The rest of the boat itself is white, and it's in the strong area, but this bit here, because it's not quite as in the light area, because it's got a curve in the boat, I'm going to pull that in like that. Now later on, when that's dry, it has got a person in the boat and some other things, but for the time being, I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, just on the subject of the boat, let me just get a bit of depth in there. And get some bits of detail. That bit of the boat there has a little bit of darkness, but not much. And how we're going to define this boat mostly is by negative painting. So just watch what happens when I do this. You see how that's come out here? I'm going to take this effect to about there. And that boat there now stands out three-dimensional. I hope it does anyway. And we can do a pretty similar thing there. Just make that dark there and the rest of this boat is engulfed by the harbour wall. You know, like that. Just finish this off. Feather a reflection like that, which connects up to that. And see if we can get some other connectives while we're doing that. And now we're starting to get tonal values into the artwork, which is a nice thing. So let's continue it here as well. And again, it's working around that boat to make it stand out. I don't know why people start getting noisy and loud at this time of day. Really does me head in. And here we start seeing a little bit more detail here, so I'm just going to be a bit cautious about what I'm doing there. Again, that's the edge of the harbour. And that's darker than what that is, strangely. That goes all the way around there. And because this is like a promenade that's raised, above it there'll be some sort of railing. Although I'm not going to show that heavily. So, right, it's nearly time for getting a detail in. I'll just indicate that as being dark there and let that come down. One or two other bits that has got some tyres on it for some strange reason. I'm just going to indicate, I'm not going to put every tyre on it that's on the reference, but it has that there. So what I'm going to do before we go any farther now is oh, thank you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry it off and then we can start getting into the final bit of detail. So I'll see if I've got my pink lightsaber ready. Here it is. Let's put it there for a minute while I plug it in. Always a precarious situation, this. Ooh. Right, I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to dry this off. I'm going to use my thing. So if you, I might be able to still talk, but here we go. Right, I think that's that done. Quick sip of the brew. Right, and this is where we use as detailing brush. What brushes are you getting, Goswina? Yeah, I think it's about getting used to the brush. You know, get yourself some reasonable. I'm not saying pay over odds for, but don't be going out and buying overly cheap brushes and expect to be able to paint well with them. Get a reasonable brush of a reasonable quality and get used to using them. Don't keep swapping and changing. I mean, literally. I mean, I've not actually used that, but that's one I normally use. We've used The hake brush, I use that all the time for getting various bits done. This is one I use for my detailing, and this is more than often my main workhorse. So, and I don't particularly deviate from that. I get used to using those brushes, and once you're used to using them, you kind of get better at doing it. I'm not saying it's going to make your artwork 1,000 times better. It's not, but um, you do get better if you know what you're doing with the tools that you've got, and you get used to those tools. So I'm going to make a mix, which is a blue and a brown. So that's like a burnt umber, and a ultramarine blue, and that makes like a blacky colour. And it can either be towards the brown or towards the blue. It really is up to you in that sense. So I'm going to start by getting all these bits in here, and I think that's a bit too strong. When you're in the distance, you don't want your detailing to be overly strong, and you really want it to be quite abstract. It barely looks like any detailing. They're just flicks and flecks like that. Flicks and flecks. And some just blend into one another. It's that's how it goes with that. Now, as you get a bit closer, you can afford to take a bit more liberties and uh, add definition to things. And like that. And as you get closer to the main feature, and this is one of the main features for me, uh, get a bit more tighter in the way that you do things. And I put little bits of random things like that in it. And don't try to be precise with these things. Just let them go as they do. Blob them in. Uh, Reinforce certain things here. Without losing too much. And starting to make good progress in the detailing. Now, certain details are down to the fact that the light's facing a different direction to the thing itself. Go like that. But most of it's windows and doors and stuff like that. And don't be too exact with it all either. If a building doesn't have exactly symmetrical windows, so be it. Doesn't matter, it just adds to the quirkiness. And some of these buildings are very quirky in the way that they're set out. Some are very, very symmetrical and have windows exactly like that one, for example. Some are very quirky, some have windows all over the place. And that's the quirkiness of these old buildings. I kind of like it like that. It gives the building individual character. Put another one there. So the nice thing of watercolor painting is you don't have to push hard on your brush. No, it's a very light touch. You're right, Goswina. It's not really about working the brush. It's more about knowing how to place the paint, the water in the right place, and letting the water do the job for you. So again, I keep reinforcing things. There's your guy. I think there's a man there as well. But all I'm going to do with these near kind of people is see if I can reinforce that. And obviously, as you get far away, you go back to that principle of being more abstract. And at that stage, it's just literally just blobs. And the odd occasional feature might show through. So we've just got a few more bits of things to re-emphasize. I'm going to and strengthen up a bit. And you can take hours on this, going round all little bits of paint like that. One thing I do want to do is get some paint and make that area dark, make that area really dark, and round there. And there you go. At that stage, there's a boat there, a small boat. Can't really see much of it because it's mostly in shadow, but just like that. I'm gonna make something there that's like it's got something. I don't know what it is. And a few more dark bits. Just to add a bit of tonal interest. And I don't think I'm that far off completion. So Yeah, I think apart maybe odd bit of detail in here. I want to put a slightly stronger amount of red there. And for me, I think that is it done. I may go back in later on once it's settled down a bit and put a bit more tonal value in different places. In fact, I have seen somewhere where I definitely do need to add a bit more tonal value in. There you go. And there you go, my impression of the photograph reference image that Goss Wiener kindly sent me. So thank you for being here, everybody, and we're going to do this every Tuesday. I hope that's a good time for everybody. And keep being creative, and thanks again for being here. So bye for now, all.